And again, our text is coming from Psalm 46, verses 1 through 3. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore will not we fear, though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea, though the waters thereof roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof. Selah. Amen. And if I could use for a subject message on today, I would like to use adjust why you look at it. Adjust why you look at it. And oftentimes we look at life situations and challenges. When we look at those things, fear can easily set in. Fear can set in for many different reasons, like when you are facing a situation where you need more money than what you are able to put your hands on. Fear can set in, and you start to think what's going to happen and how it's going to happen. Or when you go to the doctor and you get an unfavorable doctor's report, and all the what ifs about how much different life will be if this happens or if that happens, and what if this happens and what if that happens. Those thoughts, they swarm in on you, and then if you're not careful, fear will set in. And sometimes, and all together, in order and in efforts to avoid the feelings of defeat, hopelessness, and being scared, we just avoid looking at it altogether. Have you just had something that you just couldn't figure out? You didn't know how it was going to work out. You have exhausted all of your means, and every time you looked at it, your anxiety levels would go up, or your fear would just creep in and just grab hold of you and just like not let you go. So in order to try to avoid that feeling and those feelings, you just wouldn't look at it. You just wouldn't deal with it. Has that ever happened to anybody where you just said, I'm not even going to look at it right now? Because if I do, then I know it's gonna, it's gonna send me there, and that's a place that I really don't want to go. So we just avoid looking at it altogether. But most of us have been taught to look at situations and look at life's issues with one common purpose in mind, and that's to either solve it or to see how we can fix it. That's how we are taught, and that's how culture has taught us and trained us while we look at the situation. We look at the situation to see if we can fix it and how we can fix it. And for most of us, fear, doubt, and frustration settles in because we can't fix it or we can't see how it's going to be done. That is why fear oftentimes settles in, is because we cannot either fix it or we can't see how it's going to be fixed. Those are the two biggest components that are fear's incubator. They grow fear because we can't see how it's going to be done, or we can't fix it ourselves. First of all, we can't fix it ourselves, so we get scared and we get frustrated, because now that puts us in a position that we're possibly going to have to depend and trust somebody else to help us, not knowing if they're going to help us or not. Or we can't see the details. Even if God gives you the word that he's going to do it, oftentimes we struggle and fear sets in because he didn't give us any other details. Have you ever been thrown off because you didn't have any more details? All you had was just the word that says, I was going to do it, or I am going to do it. And in your mind, you're wanting to know more details than what you actually have. You want to know when, you want to know where, you want to know who he going to use, what tree, what raven, what spot to be at. You want to know all the details. But we've been teaching over the last couple of weeks in life support that sometimes God doesn't give you too many details, because sometimes the more details he gives you, the more questions you're going to ask. Come on here. And then you become more detail specific than you are God purposed. Your attention is more so on the details than it is God. And sometimes that is why God will not give us the details, because he does not want our attention to be shifted to the details away from him. Have you ever been mad with God because he didn't give you no more details? You were frustrated with God because he just didn't tell you what you were really wanting to hear. And the whole purpose behind that was because he did not want your attention to shift from him to the details. So he was still doing it for your own protection. But the way that we have been taught to look at life's challenges can conflict with our faith if we don't learn the other way to look at it. So there's times we have to adjust the way that we look at things. And if we do not learn the other way to look at things, we will live a life where fear has a revolving door to come in and out of your life as it pleases, as much as it wants to, invited or not, it just shows up. If we do not learn the other way to look at it, I'm going to say that again, fear will have a revolving door and it comes in and out of your life. You know, a revolving door goes around. It don't take you to different places. It only has, watch this, a place that you come in and a place that you come out. And it does not change the scenery. Have you ever been to those hotels that have those big revolving doors? That's all it's going to do is take you in and bring you out. And if we're not careful, if we don't learn this other way that God is going to show us on today, how to look at life's situations and challenges, that's all fear is going to do. Fear is going to have a revolving door that comes in and out of your life. It's going to control your life as much as it wants to and how it wants to, whether you want it to or not. It's going to come, invited or not. It's going to show up. And so today, in order to help us show this, I'm going to look at our text. We are going to look at our text in reverse. Typically, we start out at the beginning of the text. But today, for the purpose of wanting to create this scenery for you and to let you know what's really happening in this chapter, we want to look at this text in reverse. And you know, we read Psalms 46, verses 1 through 3. So I'm going to start with the latter part of verse 2 and going into verse 3. We're going to start there because I want you to understand the type of environment that the psalmist is in. I want you to understand what they are dealing with. And it reads, and it says, the second part says of verse 2, and it says, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. Verse 3, though the waters thereof roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof, Selah. So basically what it's telling you is everything in my life is not going the way that I want it to go. The psalmist is basically saying my whole world is turned upside down. I don't even know what's going on. Can anybody else relate to that? It seems like the stuff in my life is just turned all upside down. I really don't even know what's going on. And the psalmist is showing us the atmosphere or the environment that they are in. They're basically saying everything, it is not going the way that I want it to go. I got some things happening in my life I don't even like. It's enough to make me scared. Can anybody else relate to that? The stuff that's going on in my life right now, it's enough to make me scared. I'm unsure about it. I don't know what tomorrow is going to be like. I don't even know what the next few minutes is going to be like. And I'm from the country, so we say tiptoeing on tater chips. We don't say potato chips. We say tater chips. We don't say potatoes. We say we tiptoeing on tater chips. So that basically means I'm having to walk very carefully. I'm having to walk real softly. I'm having to make sure that I don't take the wrong step at the wrong time, because if I make the wrong move, everything else might fall apart. Does anybody else feel that way? I'm scared to even move. So I'm having to carefully make sure I place my feet, because I don't know if I move over there, I'm scared that it's going to be something that's going to go off over here. So I'm living in that kind of atmosphere. I'm living in that kind of environment. And this is what the psalmist is letting us know, that everything is not going the way that I want it to go. It actually feels like my whole world is falling apart. It seems like I can't even get this right, because if I get this right, then that over there is going to break out. And then if that break out, then everything going to be infected and just have a breakout. And by the time I get one thing up under control, it looks like something else is coming. And it's day after day and it's week after week. And this is the kind of situation and environment not only the psalmist is in, but we are in. And so therefore, it's almost like I don't even, oh God, now that the next day, I don't even really want to look at this. I don't even really want to deal with this because I'm just really trying to catch my breath. Is there anybody that say I'm trying to catch my breath from the last thing? I'm just really trying to get, I'm just trying to catch my breath from the last thing. It ain't even been, watch this, it ain't even been 24 hours yet, and here comes something else. If it wasn't the car, it's the sink. If it wasn't the sink, it was the car. And if it wasn't the car, it was the door. If it wasn't the door, it was the doctor's report. If it wasn't the doctor's report, it was my job. If it wasn't my job, it was my children. If it wasn't my children, it was my husband. If it wasn't my husband, it was my wife. It was just something. And it was one thing after another. And I'm just trying to catch my breath. But I want to talk to the people whose world has not been going the way that they thought it was going to go. And, I'm just not even really wanting to look at this. I don't even really want to deal with this, but I know that I have to because I've been taught that I look at the situation to see how I can fix it, right? That's what we've been taught as a culture of people. And then we get frustrated when we can't fix it, when you don't have enough money or when all the money is not there and you don't know where the money is coming from. And then, all this fear and anxiety starts to set in. And then sometimes we develop the mentality, if I could just hit the lottery, I want to come and serve notice on you. You already have hit it. I'm about to tell you the winning number of scriptures right now that's going to help you be able to access everything that you need to pull out so your world can look a little bit different. But I had to let you know that everything in the psalmist's world was not going right. His whole world was turning upside down. If you look at it, he talks about the mountains being carried away into the sea. And then he talks about the waters thereof being troubled. And then he said the mountains are shaking. So he's basically letting us know everything in my world ain't going right. Can I get some people that can relate to that? Everything in my world ain't going right. But I came to serve notice on you and let you know just because everything in your world is not going right does not mean that it's not going according to plan. Ooh, come on here. Did somebody catch that? Just because it's not going right does not mean it's not going according to the plan. Oh my God. Sometimes we get worried and we get frustrated and we get disappointed and we get angry because it's not going right. But watch this. When you are a true believer and when your mind is set on the things of God, I'm no longer focusing on it going right. My main concern is now, is it going according to plan? Ooh, oh my God. Is it going according to plan? And the psalmist, again, he's letting us know what's going on in his world. But then I want you to realize what he said and what was said. Because the psalmist says, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. He said, therefore, will not we fear. And I had to show you that everything wasn't going good in his hood. Everything in his world was being shaken. But he still somehow or another makes the statement and says, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. He said, I'm not even going to be scared. He said, everything I'm dealing with is enough to make me scared. He said, but I'm not even going to be scared. He said, I'm going to take confidence, watch this, not in the problems that I have, but I'm going to take confidence in the person that's going to solve the problem. Oh my God. Because remember what we said at the beginning of this, oftentimes we are taught to look at our problems and to look at our situations and our circumstances in the strength of how we can fix it. And most of our minds don't ever shift to God fixing it until we have exhausted the ways that we can fix it. Come on, can I get somebody just to be honest with us? Most of the time when we look at situations, we are looking at the situation in the strength of how we can fix it. And we do not look at it with the mindset of God fixing it until we have exhausted all the ways that we can't fix it. Ooh. Somebody just said adjust, adjust, adjust. Just put your hand right here and say adjust, 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 adjust. Because what the psalmist is showing us is, he said, I'm willing to look at my situation. He said, I know it's ugly. He said, I can actually tell you. He's telling us in the words, he said, my whole world is being shaken right now. I don't even know what's going on. I don't even know what's going to happen next. It's enough to make you scared. It's enough to make you tremble. It's enough to make you lose hope and lose doubt when you start looking at it in the strength of how you can do it. Because most of us, that's where fear sets in anyway, is because now we're looking at it through the strength of what we can do, through the resources that we have available to us in the realm of tangible. And so then fear sets in because I needed 100 and I only got 25. I'm looking at this 25 knowing that I need the 100 and I don't know where the other 75 is going to come from. I don't know how it's going to be done. So I get frustrated and then I get worried and then I get anxiety and then I get fear and then I get mad and I get angry because I just cannot figure out where it's going to come from. God, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But the psalmist gives us another way to look at it. He said, I'm looking at all of this. I'm looking at all of this. He said, but watch what he did. Watch what he even did. He did not even start out, the psalmist did not even start out talking about their trouble. Oh my God. Are y'all seeing that with me? When the psalmist wrote the psalm, they started out talking about who God is. But oftentimes what we do is we start talking about how big the problem is or what the problem is. And then that's what actually, watch this, incubates our fear and frustration. It does not mean that the psalmist did not look at it. He said, but before I start saying anything, before I start responding, let me do a whole complete and total analysis of this thing. Yes, this is my problem. But this is who my God is. Come on. How many of us actually approach our situations like this? Okay, you are the problem, but he is God. Whew. You're the problem. He's God. Because most of us, when we look at our problems, this is how big it is. This is all I can do. Come on. Are we being honest about it? This is how big it is. This is what I can do. I don't know how. I don't know when, I don't know where, I don't know, I just don't even know how it's going to be done. But the psalmist gives us another way to look at it. The psalmist said, I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the problem. But when he even starts to talk and communicate to us, he's not first off coming out telling us, watch this, what the problem is. He said, first of all, let me put first thing first. Let me tell you, watch this. Let me tell you who God is. He said, God is our refuge. But then let me tell you not only who God is, let me tell you the strength of God. God is strong. God is able. But not only did the psalmist know who, watch this, not only did he know who God was or who God is in his particular situation, in their particular situation, he knew the strength of God. Oh my God. So he knew who God was or who God is, and he knew the strength of God. But there was something else that he knew. And this is the part that sometimes has the potential to throw us off. He says in that very same text, he says, God is present in my trouble. He said he's a very present help in my trouble. Most of us do not shift to that mentality until we are frustrated, until we have the headache, not a headache, but the headache. I got the headache. Until we're frustrated, we got the headache. We're irritable, don't want to be bothered. That's when most of us shift to that mindset and mentality. Fear has already set in. Anxiety has set in. You snapping at everybody because you're looking at it in the strength of how you can do it. You're looking at it in the strength of who you are, when actually your strength comes from a greater source. Who you are is derived from a greater source that is stronger than you are. Can you see how the enemy gets us in having us to look at it through our own ability, through our own strength, when we need a God to empower us to even be who we are, to do what we do? The psalmist said, I see the problem. It's big. But now I'm looking at it in the light. Notice what I said. I said that intentionally. I'm looking at it in the light of who my God is. Let me tell you something. Is there anybody that people sometimes think you don't deal with stuff? And they looking at you like you got it all together, like ain't nothing. You come out GQ every Sunday, or your swag is tight every day, and they looking at you like don't nothing never go wrong in their world. And if it does, they always got a scripture ready, handy, and available. And it's just like, oh my God, ain't nothing going wrong in their world. But let me show you what was happening even in this Psalms, because I want to help somebody that, sometimes when people look at you and they see how you handle things, and they looking at you, and sometimes they've even said to you, well, I don't handle it like that, or I don't deal with it like that, or they're looking at you all funny because they're looking at you handling your situation in the strength of who God is, and not in the strength of who you are. Because I just told you what the issue is. You're dealing with your situation in the strength of who God is, and they're dealing with their situation in the strength of who they are and how they can fix it. This is why y'all handle things differently. Because watch this, you got one person that's handling it in the strength of who God is, and you got somebody else handling it in the strength of who they are and what they can do. And so they looking at you funny, like why you ain't tripping, why you ain't fussing, why you ain't losing control, why, how? God must have done it for you. Matter of fact, let me just be honest with you. There are some things that have not yet even manifested. They don't even know about. All they know is that they just see you walking around. I'm not gonna fear. I'm not gonna be scared. I'm handling this situation. Y'all don't even know what happened on yesterday. I just dealt with that the day before, but I got some more news yesterday. And, but God is. because you're dealing with it in the strength of who you know God to be and who you know him as. Watch this. Not only who you know him as, I know where he is. Come on. Is there anybody that says, I got some trouble going on in my life, but I know who God is. I know what God is going to do, and I know where he at. Oh my God. I know who God is. I know what he gonna do, and I know where he at. Because that's the three things that the psalmist had that actually repelled him from operating in fear. He already told us, he said, my world is being shaken right now. He said, but because I know who God is, I know the strength of God, and I know where God is at. Woo. I'm going to say that again for somebody who's writing notes, because that's going to help you when it seems like your world, watch this, as you go back and you look at your situation and how your world is being shaken, you know, watch this, you know who God is, you know the strength of God, and you know where God is at. I just need for somebody to type it over. If you know where God is at, say he's right here with me in my trouble. He's right here with me in my trouble. That's for the person that's been feeling like they've been fighting this thing by themselves and that there's nobody to help them. I came to tell you, you got a God. He said, I'm right there in your trouble with you. That's why you're not consumed. That's why you could show up for church this morning. That's why you're here, because I'm right here with you. And I had to send this word to let you know you ain't fighting this thing by yourself. I just need for you to look at it a little bit differently now. I need for you to know who I am. I need for you to know the strength of me. And I need for you to know where I'm at. I'm right here with you. I didn't leave you. I have not left you, nor do I plan on leaving you. I just need for you to stop looking at it in the strength of what you can do when you are actually relying on me. Because if you're relying on me, I need for you to look at it in me, through me, in me and through me. So whenever the devil tells you that you got to do something, you do got to do something. You got to look at it through the strength of who God is. You got to look at it in the strength of knowing that God is stronger than you. And you got to look at it in the strength of knowing where he is. He's right here with me in my trouble. He's right here with me in my trouble. I just got to adjust the way that I'm thinking about it, because I told you that's the thing that sometimes gets us and oftentimes throws us off, is because we're looking at it in the strength of what we can do. Then we get scared. Has that ever happened to anybody else? And I look at it and, you know, there's an imbalance in there, and then I'm getting scared and I'm getting frustrated, and now I'm losing faith because I'm looking at it and I know I only got 25, but I needed 100 and I'm 75. I ain't even gonna say 75 short. I need 75 more, and I don't know where it's coming from. But the psalmist said, with everything I got going on in my life, he said, I'm not looking at it in myself. I'm not looking at it in the strength of what I can do. I'm looking at it through the lens of who God is. I got to adjust the way that I've been taught to look at life situations. I got to adjust and make the switch and not look at it with your family members. If God don't give you nothing to say, ain't nothing to say. If God don't give you nothing to do, there's nothing to do. Look at it through the strength of being that empty cup that God is going to pour into, to pour out to somebody else. So therefore, you're relying on the strength of God. You're relying on who God is. You're relying on the strength of God. And you're relying on the fact that God is right there present with you. He's a very present help. And I want to put emphasis on the word present right there. And I want to talk to the person that's been feeling like they've been fighting this thing by themselves. And the reason that you cannot acknowledge, watch this. The reason that you cannot acknowledge that God is there, because you're trying to carry it yourself. When he's the one that's carrying you. Well, I got to do this and I got to do that. I got to do this. No, sometimes all I got to do is just sit still and just hear him. Sometimes all I got to do is just sit still and get my mind clear so I can hear him. Because watch this. We've been talking about this in life support. The miracles that God performed with Elijah and the widow woman, they came through instructions. Whew. They came through a set of instructions. And they had to forget about what they didn't have. If Elijah had gotten so consumed with the brook drying up, he would have never been in the right frame of mind. Oh my God. To hear God for the set of instructions, that was going to lead him to his next place. Because the God of your brook is the God of your Zarephath. The same God that got you through the last thing is the same God that's going to get you through this thing. But he just needs you to be in that place where you kill all the noise and all the things that's demanding your attention so you can't hear him. Because he wants you to know, I'm right there with you. I'm not leaving you to fight by yourself. I'm not going to leave you out there by yourself. I told you I was going to be with you from start to finish. From beginning to end. So that means everything that even happens in the middle, God is right there. And the reason that we sometimes start to feel like we are alone and we are fighting by ourselves is because we're looking at the limited ability and resources that we have that gets us frustrated. When God is saying, I need for you to shift your mind to who I am, the strength of what I can do. And I need for you to focus on this last component, that I am right there with you. Whenever the enemy is telling you that you're fighting this by yourself and you can't come out because your strength and your ability is limited, then that's when you got to actually, watch this, you got to make the adjustment in your mind. You got to be intentional in making the adjustment. Watch this, to focus on what you feel, but now you got to make the adjustment to focus on what you know. And what you know, that your God is your refuge. God is your strength. God is strong, and God is right there with me. And oftentimes we start to feel like we are fighting alone is because we're feeling that. We feel alone. Watch this. Feeling alone and knowing that you are alone is two different things. And oftentimes the enemy will try to get us to operate in how we feel, because when we are operating in how we feel, we cannot operate in what we know. And we're sad, and we're feeling defeated, and we're looking at how our world is being turned upside down, and I can't see, watch this, I exhaust all the ways that I could possibly think, and then I go to God. Does anybody else do that? Well, I don't have this, and I can't do this, and I can't do that, and I can't do this, and I can't do that, and I can't do this, and I can't do that, and I can't fix this. God, how many of us do that? Let's just be honest. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do this. I can't do that. I don't understand this. I don't see no way for that. I don't see no way for that. And then I just feel so alone. I feel so helpless. God. But watch the difference. When I look at the situation, my whole world is turning upside down. I don't know what the next move is going to be like. God is my refuge. God is my strength. God is my very present help in trouble. Watch this. What I've done is I've alleviated. So I had to adjust the way I think, because culture has taught me to figure out how I can fix it first. But my faith and the word of God tells me to give it to God. As soon as I see it, don't even start to think on it. Don't even start to ponder on it. God. Notice what's happening now. I'm not sitting there and my brain is about to blow up because I can't figure it out. I'm telling my situation with my whole world turning upside down. I'm telling my situation. I'm telling my world that's turning that you got to turn in the direction to work for my good because of who my God is. And I know he right here with me. He ain't, watch this. I know he with me and he not going to let you turn my whole world upside down without turning his world upside down. Because if he lets you turn my world upside down, that means he's not in control. Woo. Oh my God. And the moment that I can get my mind wrapped around the fact that he is in control, then that's when he can have control. Before God will take control of your world, before God will take control of your world, you have to let God take control of your mind. Oh my God. Because watch this. He will never take control of your world without first taking control of your mind. Because if he takes control of your world and you do not let him have control of your mind, all your mind is going to do is create the conflict and the chaos in a world that he was already in control of. Woo! Somebody say, I got to adjust my mind. I got to adjust my mind. I got to adjust my mind. And you cannot, as we get ready to close, you cannot be wishy-washy with your thinking. You're going to have to know this 24/7, 365. You might have to have some refresher courses in those times. Let Pastor Fran be the first one to be honest with you. You might have to have some refresher courses up in there. In between start to finish. But I got to adjust my mind. And some of our worlds have not yielded. The manifestation is because God is saying, let me. That's why the word of God said, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. Because now you got to let him have, watch this, you got to let him have the ability to conform your mind. Because the sooner you can let God conform your mind, and the sooner you let the word of God conform your mind and your mind conform to the word, then your world is going to be impacted. I got to make an adjustment. I got to make an adjustment. I got to adjust my mind. I got to adjust my mind. In my closing, the psalmist, he had stuff going on. But he noted who God is. And when he talks about his strength, he's basically saying, I know what God is going to do. And then he acknowledges the fact that I know where God is. I want to ask somebody right now, do you know where God is? I know the enemy's been telling you that you're by yourself. I know the enemy's been telling you that you ain't going to come out of this. And your whole world is just not going to be turned upside down, but he's going to crumble. You're going to crumble with the world. You're going to flip with the world. So basically what the enemy is trying to tell you is that your situations and your circumstances are going to get the best of you. So I want to ask you the question, do you know where God is? And I see some responses over in the chat section. Say, God is with me. God is with me. God is with me. God is with me. Wait a minute now. If God, through Jesus, has defeated everything, and he's with you, how can that thing defeat you then? Huh? Because if you were in God and God is in you and he is with you and you are with him, there's no way it can defeat you without defeating him. Do you see how the enemy is trying to lie to you and tell you and trying to disconnect you from God? Because in order for the situation to defeat you, and if God is with you, that means the situation also defeats God. Come on here. This is why some of us need to get happy on today, because I've been feeling defeated, but now my mind has grabbed a hold to the fact that God, who God is, what God can do, and I know that I know where he is. He's right here with me. So watch this. If he's already defeated that, there's no way he gonna let this come in and defeat us in 2024. If he did this over 2,000 years ago, if he defeated this over 2,000 years ago, there's no upgrade that can defeat him. Come on here. There's no modern day thing that can defeat him. And if it defeats you, it defeats him if you are in him. Whew. The bills are not going to defeat you. The sickness is not going to defeat you. The loneliness is not going to defeat you. The heartbreak and the heartache is not going to defeat you. It can't defeat you. But the only way it does not defeat you in my final closing is that you got to know who God is. You got to know what God will do, and you got to know where God is at. I just want to know, do you know where he at? Because if he with you, you need to get up and you need to shake yourself off from that sad state of mind that you've been in. I want to go to the extent of saying that the depression that you've been in, feeling like you've been by yourself. You need to get up. You need to put on some clothes today, and you need to look at a football game and be happy. Because he with you. And there's no way it can defeat you and not defeat him if he's with you. Know where he is. Know who God is. Know what God will do, and know where he's at. That is going to be the thing. That as you look at your world turning, as you look at situations happening, as you look at circumstances going on, that's going to give you the confidence to know it's not going to defeat you. I don't care what the bills say. I don't care what the doctors say. I don't care what nobody say. I don't care what anybody says. It cannot defeat you. It might not be going the way I want it to go, but it's going according to plan. It's that thing that was going to help me know who God is, know what God can do, and know where he at. I just had to adjust my mind and adjust my thinking.